I don't know if I hate him, but I certainly have hate for him. He's not dead to me like she is. Like legitimately, mentally, never even existed kind of dead. So the idea of leaving him in the past forever as soon as I can afford to move out is not painless, even though it's inevitable. I feel pity mixed with gratitude. This was the one life he was given, and this is how it turned out for him. He was a normal guy, fell in love, had a kid, got married, worked hard to provide, and has a social life of his own. He's not a horrible guy, he just made a horrible decision in marrying a piece of shit. But this is also the one life I was given, the one and only childhood I could ever have. And this is how it turned out for me, in part, because of him. Why should I feel pity? He was a grown-ass man when he made those decisions, when he consistently chose to do nothing. He had countless years to listen and do something, but didn't. Why am I to feel bad because of the idea of a grown adult facing consequences for their decisions? Decisions that, again, he made for well over a decade. The gratitude for the privilege he provided financially has never and will never be lost, but he allowed all of its weight to be pissed away longer than I can remember. There's gratitude that there was someone in the house that wasn't a complete nut like she was, but that shouldn't have to be something I can feel grateful for in the first place. In a lot of people's minds, forgiveness means forgetting it ever happened. That's not how that works. I despise people that try vomiting that bullshit about forgiveness because the pain is too much or because your family are the only ones you've got. If I respect myself, why the fuck would I do that? So many people fall for that shit because the weight of everything I'm talking about now hurts too bad, yet they don't realize they're just signing themselves up for a different kind of hurt anyway. It's just simply stretched out over a much larger span of time. And that's the thing. What is there to even fix? To restore? To nurture? When you spend 20 years feeling disconnected from your own family and then are forced to grow up without any place emotionally to call home, that shit changes you in ways you don't want it to. That man is closer to a stranger in my mind than anything. Like some sort of legal caretaker that I'm not even related to. After the life I've lived because he did nothing to prevent it, and even contributed to it, I'm supposed to crack jokes, watch movies, and play poker with this nigga as if he wasn't supposed to bear me since the age of 11? People will really look you in the eyes and tell you to forgive someone who has clearly demonstrated time and time again that your life will never matter enough to them until it's gone. And that is the person whose job it is to be protecting me. Are you fucking stupid? The fuck I look like accepting tears, apologies, and acknowledgments that I should have gotten over a decade ago when they would have actually mattered. Which still wouldn't have in the long run unless he actually did what I needed him to. The kid has to carry the weight of everything, not the parents, and yet the idea of the parents having to face the reality of decades worth of conscious decisions upsets people. Everyone thinks it's the child who should carry the burden of decisions that grown adults made. It wasn't like he was dealing with his own shit or anything where I could look back as an adult and be like, oh, I see how that fucks up someone's ability to be a father. My life simply just didn't matter enough. He's a grown man with no excuse. Not that there is an excuse for letting a child get treated like fucking garbage, but all the excuses people try to give to make the kid understand don't work here. You raised a kid that wanted to do things he can never directly admit to. Pretty sure that makes you a fucking failure by many metrics. Which even then I say raised in a technical term because you didn't raise shit. I had to navigate this life on my own and be the one to figure out how to keep my head on straight. Fuck you. You live in a house where the only other two people living in it don't speak to each other and haven't this entire decade. That alone don't make you feel like a fucking failure? The dynamic with your son for the past year is fully comparable to a tenant and their landlord because that's all you're worth to him now. That alone don't make you feel like a fucking failure? I'm supposed to feel bad because after 2 decades this nigga will finally be forced to experience consequence for his actions, or rather complete inaction. I did everything I could growing up to make it clear things needed to change. There isn't a single angle where you could even try and make it seem like I could have done something different. The ironic thing is that I had already forgiven him so many years ago for the shit he himself had done. It was just run-of-the-mill dad stuff, which he at some point stopped doing. Keywords, stopped doing. A concept his wife never had the brain power to grasp. In many ways, he's not the same man I knew growing up. At a point in time, that counted for something. I used to pity him for being stuck married to a dumbass that constantly babbles on about stupid shit, but after my psychotic event, I began to realize the gap in intelligence wasn't as vast as I thought growing up. Even 2 tears at her funeral would be 3 too many. An absolute waste of molecules. That is what you married. That is what you started a family with. That was a decision you made as a grown man. What am I to feel bad for? For a while, the conflict of leaving him behind was much more of one than it is now, because a few weeks ago sealed it so good for me. The basement is where the laundry is, and it's also where she spends all her time. A literal lazy fucking unemployed bum basement dweller whose only skill is clicking add to cart and engaging in spirituality with books and crystals when not even an exorcism could cleanse 1/10 of her soul. This nigga has the nerve to text me saying to not do laundry that day because she's sleeping, as if it's my fault she chooses to sleep whenever and often throughout the daytime. When the fuck exactly am I supposed to do it then? 3 in the morning? I'm supposed to revolve my entire routine around when that decides to go to sleep. And that's not even the dumbest part. The furthest point in the house from the laundry area is literally their fucking bedroom, the one she never sleeps in. Me doing laundry has been an issue for these cretins for well over a year now, as if she doesn't possess the ability to use her fucking legs to walk up the stairs and sleep in their bedroom. Like I said, this is far from the first time this nigga texted me or walked in my room over me doing laundry at perfectly reasonable hours, or straight up has stopped my laundry because a complete waste of our population's food supply sleeping in an area it is not at all obligated to sleep in. A completely imaginary issue is pinned on me. I'm actually convinced this nigga thinks I do laundry for fun, because you would not believe the dumb shit I've heard out this nigga's mouth. She can make all the noise she wants on the phone at 1 a.m. or cook nasty ass garbage smelling soups in 70, 80, 90 degree weather for 24 hours straight, multiple times a day, with a stench that literally penetrates each and every area of the house. And if I say anything about it, then I'm the crazy one for not being considerate of her. This is why I just blocked the nigga number when he texted me that bullshit, because I knew there was no point explaining it to him. He'd just say some dumb shit to make it seem like there's something about the situation I'm not getting. So it was either block his number and protect my peace, or press the issue, which I would inevitably escalate because my patience is long gone. I had to do it. Nigga always be texting me dumb shit in general. I felt a meaningful increase in security of peace ever since. The concept of leaving behind the only parent you've ever had is strangely a bit intense. There is no other soul you've known this long, and one day they will become nothing more than a fading memory, even though by this point they're already becoming one. Part of the intensity is due to the fact that this is not a position that any offspring should be in, to have to disown your own biological parent. The feeling is so crazy when you physically look at someone who has no idea that in the near future they are never going to hear from you again. I pity him because he still believes what little is left of our relationship doesn't terminate the second I leave this house. I pity him because he thinks I still view him as my father when that hasn't been true in years. I lose some of that pity when I remember the fact that you can't love both someone and their abuser. It's either or. Doesn't work any other way. Though it's easy to bypass this fact when you don't believe any abuse ever took place. I tried to develop our relationship several times since 2019, and even though the attempts all succeeded, they all fell apart because eventually he'd unknowingly remind me that being a husband always mattered more than being a father. Things would go great for months, and then the realization would hit me and I'd just slowly back away. Last year it happened for the last time. I had spent years avoiding the question of if my dad was guilty since he allowed everything to happen and is still with her. Never mind the fact that he was barely ever able to acknowledge how badly I was treated. The question was way too intense, conflicting, and painful for me to even engage with it. But last year it was made so obvious to me that the answer was always yes. Parents love to call their kids smart until they're being called out for their bullshit. Like, oh, so I have great intellect, but I completely lack the ability to know how someone is treating me? Yeah, okay. Parents also love to act nice and understanding until you don't give them the response they wanted. Then it all gets tossed out the window. Suddenly you're being ridiculous and unreasonable, which they tell you as they're getting loud and aggressive. Okay. Growing up, I always heard, wow, you're so mature for your age. And I thought it was a compliment until I got older and realized that the reason this is true is the same reason my mind is irreparably fucked now. The people that said that shit will never realize the reason behind their statement either. They just saw a kid consistently going to good schools and the advanced classes with a few more toys than the other kids and just assumed my life was extra peachy. Being an only child creates a unique effect. It's not better or worse than having siblings in this position, it's just different. It's as isolating as it could possibly be. When both parents are out the picture, you don't have anyone left. Yes, you have extended family, but unless you have a strong bond with them, it doesn't count. And even if you're cool with one of them, they'd have to truly be one of your strongest connections to transcend simply being a family member. Growing up with an abysmal parent will force your brain into being either codependent or sociopathic to varying degrees. One feels so much better than the other. When you're young, you maintain the belief that even though your parents are shit, at least the rest of the world will have something to offer you to make up for it. But then eventually you find out it doesn't. Outside people may not be as bad as your folks, but they're effectively just as worthless. So even if you were codependent, your brain will switch anyway. It understands life as one big sink or swim, and as a man, once you realize there's not a soul on this earth that'll help you from drowning, if you have any intention on swimming, your brain will adapt. Initially you're upset and resentful about it because this isn't a change you consented to or wanted to have happen. But then it fades into oblivion as you realize you didn't lose anything of value anyway. You spend up to the first 2 decades of your life holding on to the hope that things will be different at some point and what you need will swoop in to change the way you're molding, but at some point you realize that it is genuinely too late. The way life has molded you has cemented now. There's legitimately nothing that can be done anymore. You can't get back those years of development. You can't get a do-over with different cards. No one did anything to stop this. Even if you did get what you once needed, your brain already developed without it. It's too little too late. All the hope you were holding on to was realistic to some degree when you were younger, but as a full-grown adult in today's time, it just isn't anymore. And then all that resentment you already felt takes on a whole new life as you're reminded that a decent existence was truly robbed from you. You will never get those decades back. ever. The course of your life could have been so much better. You could only ever imagine how that life would have went. Niggas will spend 20 years of their life trying to keep the last light on in their soul while watching every single person walk past them and do nothing to assist. No matter what they do, no one is going to help keep the light on. At some point, it is literally killing them to do so, to the point that they can either die or live and stop wasting that energy. As soon as they decide to live, people get pissed. How you mad at something that has nothing to do with you while also having never contributed a single dime to that light bill? You reek of privilege. You ignored those people in need of a dime your entire life. Why the fuck are you suddenly unable to keep ignoring them when the light goes out? You want to tell people who have to work 4 times as hard just to maybe receive half of what you've always had that they need to think more positive. Yeah, I'm sure they've never tried that. The only advice niggas like you have is telling people to literally just be Superman, because the shit you suggest is deeply unrealistic. It's crazy because if you ask these kinds of people if they'd swap lives with the people they speak on, I guarantee you they wouldn't. If things are as simple as you claim, then what's the issue? Surely you should be able to do the dumb shit you just suggested and reach the same level of peace and happiness you have right now. There is an immense irony in people being unable to handle just a few sentences out the mouth of someone with a far different reality than what they lived. Like you can't even handle someone speaking their truth for a minute, and yet that person should respect anything you have to say about how their life shaped them. If you had even just one of their circumstances from any point in their history, you would have died a long time ago. But you want to sit there and whine to this person about shit that isn't even their fault. It has to be an intelligence issue. At what point during your tantrum over a life you've never lived is that person supposed to find any air of respect they can breathe regarding you? Anyone you can't understand that also makes you uncomfortable, you have to label the latest buzzword that makes you feel strong because you are so fragile you cannot stomach the existence of certain things as they come. Just because you're sheltered and can't handle discomfort in the slightest doesn't mean you need to push that onto every single person that has spent their entire life living in it. Just because you've always been too much of a pussy to stand on how you feel towards your own family doesn't mean you need to drag everyone else down to your level of pathetic to feel better about the decisions you never actually wanted to make. When you encounter discomfort, you try to whine it to death so it can go away, which to you means it no longer exists. The people whose voices you whine over don't have that same privilege. You don't have to live the words you hear to any extent after the screen cuts to black. The people you bitch about don't have that same privilege. And the thing about people like you is that every single thing you say is a stark reminder of that privilege. You have so much of it you don't even see it. The people you whine about only feel repulsed by you more. But that could be an entire video on its own and one I'll never care to make. Just know that's how niggas see you. This is the same culture that will say, well, you can't expect a depressed person to not be depressed anymore just because you said so. But the concept of it has to be an intelligence issue. It's always a whiny, privileged piece of shit that's the first to move their lips. Niggas be bleeding out trying to keep that light on, and you want to cry in that nigga ear about some stupid shit like he's supposed to care. You got dozens of lights on, all paid for, and this is how you choose to waste your privilege. But that nigga's supposed to respect you? Because you said so? Aight. Growing up with an abysmal parent also means that prior to your brain shifting, nothing ever brought you to tears quicker than seeing a little boy in public that is clearly so loved. And you were never able to tell if it was because you were looking at something you never had or if it was because you were so happy for that kid your brain didn't know any other way to express it. A feeling so intense that you genuinely contemplated walking up to their mother or father and just thanking them for existing. But every time you remembered how fucking crazy you would look and kept walking. For years I was going to get that nigga a blue 1960s Shelby Cobra and give back all the money he spent on me when I become rich. Like rockstar rich. And now once I leave you won't even have any means of contacting me. The part that hurts is that it didn't have to be this way. It's a feeling that traps and tricks a lot of people. If they're not dead to you, then there's a part of your brain that thinks, well, it doesn't have to be this way, because it's something you wish you didn't have to do. But people fail to realize that the thing they feel is the exact reason why that person is better off being left behind. Because you're right, things didn't have to be this way. They are the reason that it is. You held on to the idea of what they could be, mistaking it for potential, when it was really just the vision of them you always wished was true. But the reality of who they are was always in front of you, and immediately as you finally see it, the reality murders the idea. Now you're mourning something that never existed. Parents are the only people on earth that can destroy a relationship, burden the other person into bending over backwards to fix it, and do absolutely nothing on their end to contribute to the repair, all while the entire world validates them. Many black moms are fucking garbage, and you're never allowed to speak on it for obvious reason. So many black boys have the same story, but they're the only ones villainized for acknowledging it. Every other race gets to call out the common negative traits amongst their race and gender apparent within their own community, and it's fine. But black people don't get that same privilege at all. I've seen Chinese people acknowledge how the mothers and fathers are in Chinese spaces. Little to no issue. I've seen Koreans do the same, little to no issue. I've seen Indians do the same, little to no issue. I've seen Latinos do the same, little to no issue. Every other group but mine gets to speak on the generation of parents in question without their own race coming for them, and there's an inherent understanding that they are strictly referring to actual mothers and fathers, not entire genders. Only black people don't get it. Maybe it's because they know they aren't any better than the parents being criticized. Ask a black boy what it's like for their mother to treat them like trash, but act like mom of the year whenever people are around, and everything good they do is really just being done to fuel their delusion that they're actually a good mother. And that boy will yap your fucking ear off. And that's not even the tip of the iceberg. That's just the water droplet on top of the tip. Ask them what it's like having to deal with someone whose feelings need to be coddled and endless arbitrary rules need to be followed 24/7, and the second they aren't, then you victimize them to the highest degree. Every little thing is grounds for an argument. A person who, for whatever reason, a child with the power to not feed into their delusions fills them with so much rage. That same kid could point to any black boy on the street and tell you which ones are living the same life as them. You know how wild it is to watch a parent get a dog so they can continue feeling ownership over something because now you're the same height as they are? And you gotta watch as an adolescent knowing that they treat you just as shitty as that dog if it didn't interfere with the perception they have of themselves and the fact that the cops would have to get involved. A perception that not even God could understand, because somehow being uncontrollably violent towards a puppy that hasn't even been alive for 6 months yet doesn't interfere with that perception in the slightest. Both boys and girls of any race are typically given no room to speak on bad mothers, but boys especially. And the people that shut them up think they have any right to speak on how those boys eventually tweak the fuck out. I can't encourage any man to tweak out because it's heartbreaking to witness, but I also can't act like I don't, especially when it's a black man. Sometimes members of the most uncared for, unprotected, and demonized demographic on the planet fly off the handle. Who would have thought? I will always feel much emotion towards X, even though he's been long gone. Always have since the murder. Because if I had his upbringing, I would have been far worse than he was. There couldn't be a YouTube channel. The fact that this one even exists is enough of a miracle. I've never believed for a second that X was the walking demon he was at one point by birth. That kid was created. Lord knows what a sweet little boy he probably used to be. He was always going to end up a statistic. I've never seen a race of mothers more obsessed with trying to convince so many people, including themselves, that they're actually a good one. If a good parent wants advertising, then their kids would naturally do that for them. Except, a good parent doesn't care who thinks they're a good parent, as long as their kids truly think so. In what world does a good parent value their child's perception of them less than quite literally everyone else? Stockholm Syndrome in the black community is fucking rampant. Get me started on that, I'll start sounding like... I swear to the same God that never did shit for me, if you... Out of every race, a black person will be the quickest to shut down and discredit any issue someone has with their parents. Nah, that's your mom, bro. That's fucked up. Or you hate black women. Or you want that white people shit for real. Or you mad ungrateful. Whole time the relationship they have with their family is reliant on their lack of courage. I wish a fucking pussy with no backbone would even exhale in my goddamn direction. I had the balls to do what most you niggas still can at your big age before they even dropped. I wanted to keep this video strictly about my father, but I couldn't pass up an opportunity to give black men the rare vindication they were probably never going to get otherwise, although that'll likely start to change. There's going to be an epidemic of sons that hate their mothers in about 10 to 15 years, all across the country, unlike anything we've ever seen before. You have to be a dumbass not to see it coming. And when it arrives, instead of shutting the fuck up and letting those men speak, people will do every other thing under the sun instead. Doing all sorts of pathologizing, victim blaming, and villainizing instead of accepting the fact that maybe, just maybe, I fucking hate watching the cause cry over the effect. This species is nowhere near as intelligent as it thinks it is. The majority of it is falsely credited for the intellect of a ridiculously small percentage. It's that small percentage that moved our species forward and held it together. When you realize this, you start to understand even better why the people in power are the people in power. A lot of the anger you feel towards their being goes away, because now it's clear there was never any other way the cards could have fell. The ones that sought ascension for the sole purpose of abusing the defenseless could never not be pathetic to me. But the ones that anybody with a shitty life and enough brain activity can tell you how backwards this entire world is. Like literally all of it. Because why is it that I can't even encourage someone to keep their light on in good faith due to the fact that I know they'll receive so much more than they ever did before once it finally goes out? Everyone's mouth says one thing while reality says another. People spend so much of their life bitching about the evidence and then turn around and tell you it doesn't exist. If it's not an honesty issue, then it has to be an intelligence one. I can't even post this video in its raw state anywhere on the internet because it's not worth the risk. This isn't the only body of work that's going to receive a cleanup treatment for the sake of money either. Shattered Glass is going to have to go too. It truly kills me, but I refuse to let my hard work be undermined because this world can't handle having to face the consequences of its own inaction. Before my career ends, I will post the uncensored version and restore any altered work to their original state. That I promise. I could never let this world think it could fuck me over that long and never truly have to feel it. You'd have to to stop me, and even then I'd hope to haunt souls from far beyond the grave. I'll never have to meet myself ever again. Whatever pain I may feel in the future after leaving him behind, at least I know someday I'll be too grown to still be giving a fuck about a stranger.